So I've just finished watching Disclosure Day from Steven Spielberg, starring Josh O'Connor and Colin Farrell and Emily Blunt. And man, this film is quite a lot to get through, as in quite a lot like stuff about religion and aliens. And basically, the one question is, it's not really are aliens real, which is again up to your debate, but it's in this case of if aliens are real, then how is everyone going to react to this then? And of course, the bigger question, how big of a shock would that be to the system of the world, particularly in the context of this world of a disclosure world? The world's already in shambles and there's already a lot of militarized campaigns involving North Korea. But in this case, knowing that Steven Spielberg has a lot of experience regarding about films about alien craft, like Close Encounters, about what happens when man meets aliens for the first time, or E.T., when a suburban kid meets an alien in his backyard, or something like War of the Worlds, when if aliens were to invade, or Indiana Jones' Kingdom of Crystal Skull, if aliens were in a terrible Indiana Jones movie. But in this case, that's why that's the question beforehand. Like, how are people going to observe the truth about it? Which is again a very interesting foresight about human condition, and of course how humans are going to react to something like the unknown about it. So it's again very interesting. The movie, of course, follows a person who works in this agency that covers up like aliens and alien activity on Earth. But after leaking some very sensitive data and stealing it from them, of course, it becomes this really big cat and mouse chase of being like, where are you and where's that? And if you leak it, there'll be like loads of repercussions. Basically, Josh O'Connor is this Edward Snowden type character where he leaked deeply sensitive government information into the public, which is again a really controversial moment. Again, I think I remember when it all came down and how people were deeply shocked about it, about government surveillance. And again, aliens on Earth is probably on that same idea, but yeah. And also, the movie also follows Emily Blunt as a Kansas City weather reporter. Then after a really bizarre day at work, like speaking Russian, speaking Korean, and of course speaking in a foreign alien language, they of course try to meet up with each other, and of course exposing the truth to the whole world, which is again a very bizarre and very intricate way that Spielberg, that only he can do it, which is again not in the sense that it's like overly sentimental, but it does have somewhat of a logic to it when you try to figure that out along with the movie. Besides Steven Spielberg's well-documented fascination with aliens, the movie does, of course, has a lot of provoking questions about people of religious folks, particularly that one of the side characters did grow up in a monastery and since left the monastery over unsatisfaction with her faith, which is again definitely some sort of an interesting idea, and it definitely builds more on our character a lot more, particularly around Christianity's relationship with aliens and the unknown beyond our realm of the earth, which is again a very ingenious concept, which I think the only time that could have that I think a reference before was probably in the Evangelion series, particularly on Neon Genesis, or particularly in the movie End of Evangelion, where things of like Christianity and of course aliens definitely do intertwine and interlink quite a lot, which is again what Disclosure Day and Evangelion do share in common, particularly in the Neon Genesis and the End of films. But what also deeply fascinates me, the movie is somewhat more of an espionage film, less on the kind of like the alien stuff. Particularly like I said before, the Josh O'Connor's character did remind me quite a lot of particularly like Edward Snowden, who leaked government secrets about government surveillance and people's privacy being eroded and all that through surveillance, which is again, although it is definitely a very haunting and a very heavy subject matter, and the movie does deal with aliens in that similar light as well, which is again a very fascinating way to look at it, without going too conspiratorial in my opinion, like something like in Bognonia, where it follows like two conspiracy obsessed people that kidnap their boss, who's convinced that it's the alien. But again, it's definitely a very ingenious way to go around it as well, which is also in my opinion. But I think there's some problems I have in the movie. Like, I feel like the more they explain the human relation with aliens, the more convoluted it got, to the point like the movie just kind of like piles on more to the point I feel like it just kind of
just losing the audience a little bit. Like, okay, can you reel us back a little bit? And it doesn't quite do that. Like, okay, there's this and that at the end now. Like, okay, this and that. I feel like the more deeper you go into this alien lore that's made in this world, the more you're like, okay, this is getting a bit something right now. Like, it's definitely very surprising a lot about the human condition, as well as what we know, or let alone don't even know about the universe that's way bigger than our own little Earth, which is again a very fascinating concept to say the least. What's also probably a really strong highlight in this movie is the performance in this movie, particularly of Josh O'Connor, Emily Blunt, and Colin Farrell, and also Carmen Domingo in the movie. And of course, like I said about Josh O'Connor being a Edward Snowden type, Emily Blunt being a disgruntled newscaster, weather informer that's pretty much thrown into the deep end of the alien world. And of course, there's a Colin Farrell who tries everything in his power to pretty much put a lid on the alien thing. Like, no, that doesn't happen. If you say anything, we'll probably shout you down and try and convince you otherwise that never happened. And of course, there's Carmen Domingo, who defected from Colin Farrell's company that pretty much suppressed anything that's alien related, and also keeps a helping hand with Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt's character to pretty much navigate their way through while being under the nose of Colin Farrell, who's constantly on their tail. Of course, they all give out really emotionally charged performances in this movie, and of course, in handful of scenes, they do dig into their vulnerabilities, like Emily Blunt's falling apart marriage, and the past of Josh O'Connor's character, like what he's been to in the past, and of course, the personal life of Colin Farrell, and of course, why did Carmen Domingo defected from the company, which is, again, all these story threads are, although very briefly explored, which again I wish they could have gone through, in my opinion, like explore them a little bit more, each of their storylines, like in, I don't know, Good Luck, Have Fun, and Don't Die, which I seen earlier this year. But I wish they kind of went through their storylines a lot more thoroughly, rather than just explain it from one scene to another. Disclosure Day is definitely one of the more thought-provoking movies about alien kind, particularly from Spielberg, who has a well-versed resume regarding like alien life. This one, in my opinion, is definitely up there with like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, about government surveillance and how the government's going to react. But this one takes it a lot more of a different direction, as in how the public is going to react to this, and how big of a shock will they absorb, and what else is going on around them, and how big an event would that be for everything else to be cancelled out just because that thing just happened. As in, although very intriguing concept of like government privacy and personal privacy, and of course whistleblowing, and of course exposing to the truth, whether people want to or not, or whether people can like digest it as well. The performances are like I said, of Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth, and Carmen Dingo is of course incredible in this movie. And of course, the movie it's very insightful, even if some of the areas get a little bit too convoluted or isn't too fully explored like I wish it could have been. But in my opinion, this is definitely a wonderful movie by Steven Spielberg, albeit definitely in a way that is more of an espionage movie, less of an alien movie, where it's pretty much the two characters who have completely normal, completely different walks of life. One's a computer scientist, and the other is pretty much a weather reporter. And of course, they both intersect with each other when they both have a common thread, which again will be explained in the third act, which is again a really ingenious and very weird way of exploring it. As of course, Spielberg is about movies about ordinary people going through some pretty insane stuff. So for Disclosure Day, I am feeling an 8 out of 10 on this one. So, what do you think of Disclosure Day? Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, comment below. And you also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and Letterboxd. And this is Elijah Wells, and bye!